Between 1974 and 1991, Wichita, Kansas, lived under the shadow of a predator who called himself BTK, an acronym he later said stood for Bind, Torture, Kill. Over 17 years, 10 people were murdered in brutal ritualized attacks that left neighborhoods in Sedgwick County gripped by paranoid, suffocating fear. The killings began in 1974 and repeatedly punctured the city's quiet streets with grotesque violence. Couples and families terrorized in their homes, victims bound or strangled, personal spaces violated. The killer taunted investigators and the press with smug, detailed letters sent to the Wichita Eagle and local law enforcement, describing mutilation and control and celebrating his own crimes. The central paradox unnerved the community. The monster behind those sadistic signatures was not an outlaw in the shadows, but Dennis Rader, a seemingly ordinary husband and father, a Boy Scout leader and churchgoer who presented as a civic-minded family man. That dissonance, domestic normalcy overlaying calculated depravity, kept Wichita awake, turned neighbors into suspects, and drove a sprawling investigation that would span decades. The stage was set, a string of grotesque murders, a traumatized city, and a killer freely sending cryptic souvenirs, daring the world to catch him. His arrest finally came on February 25, 2005. On January 15, 1974, Wichita woke to a crime scene that read like a nightmare. A family home violated, bodies bound and strangled, and a pattern of ritual control that would become BTK's signature. The first known victims, members of the Otero household, were found in their beds. Their lives ended in a brutal, intimate way that turned bedrooms into crime scenes and neighbors into witnesses to horror. Patrol officers from the Wichita Police Department and detectives from Sedgwick County moved quickly, but found themselves chasing a predator who left almost no forensic trail and who seemed to know how to erase himself from the physical evidence. Investigators interviewed relatives, canvassed neighborhoods, and struggled against investigative blind spots. Mixed jurisdictional authority, primitive forensic technology for the time, and a killer who struck inside private homes where witnesses were rare. As fear spread, the perpetrator began to take control of the narrative. Soon after the first killings, anonymous communications arrived at the Wichita Eagle and at law enforcement. Smug, detailed letters that boasted of binding and torturing used the chilling initialism BTK, bind, torture, kill, and included precise details only the attacker could know. The media seized on the letters. Newspapers printed excerpts, radio and television replayed descriptions of mutilation, and BTK was transformed from an unknown murderer into a public obsession. Subscribe. Apparently, people can't resist a mystery. The letters bred terror and fascination in equal measure, prompting tip calls that overwhelmed police and produced false leads that drained resources. Meanwhile, the man who signed BTK kept an ordinary life. Husband, father, Boy Scout leader, church official, a domestic mask that let him move through Wichita undetected. The city recoiled. Investigators were forced to rethink strategy, and every unsolved lead tightened the noose toward a longer, more patient hunt that would deepen in Act 2. As the 1970s bled into the 1980s, BTK's communications escalated from anonymous postcards to long, gleeful letters that described bindings, strangulation techniques, and a twisted pleasure in control. The Wichita Eagle published excerpts, and each printed line amplified terror across Sedgwick County. Local law enforcement, the Wichita Police Department, and the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office coordinated with the FBI, and a formal task force coalesced to handle the growing volume of tips, interviews, and forensic leads. Reporters camped outside homes, radio shows dissected taunting phrases, and a public obsessed with grotesque detail flooded detectives with calls that produced thousands of leads, most of them dead ends. The letters became more personal and manipulative, giving dates and specifics that proved the writer's intimate knowledge of crime scenes while demanding attention like a ritualistic predator craving an audience. FBI profilers in Quantico labeled BTK, an organized, controlling offender with sexual sadism and a compulsion to dominate. A portrait that matched the maddening pattern of careful crime scene control and theatrical correspondence. Investigators chased handwriting samples, checked purchase records, and traced phone calls, but for every promising thread there were false confessions and misleading tips that sapped time and morale. All the while, the real man maintained a banal public life. Dennis Rader attended Christ Lutheran Church in Park City, served as president of the church council, led Boy Scouts meetings, and appeared as an involved husband and father of two, an ordinary suburban mask that concealed meticulous perversity. That contrast sharpened the hunt. A civic-minded volunteer who wrote obscene, precise letters to gloat about ritualized murders, leaving detectives with a chilling question that would drive them into Act 3. After the last confirmed murder in 1991, BTK went quiet. A decades-long hiatus chilled the case file. Investigators closed some leads, but never stopped tracking the grotesque pattern. That silence ended in 2004, when the killer began sending letters and packages again, rekindling fear across Wichita and Sedgwick County. Among the mailed items was a small, seemingly mundane, 3.5-inch floppy disk sent to media and law enforcement. That disk proved decisive. Forensic technicians from the Wichita Police Department, working with the FBI, imaged the disk, recovered deleted files, and read document metadata and file names that tied files to Christ Lutheran Church in Park City, Kansas. Digital timestamps, saved document properties, and file path traces narrowed the search from vague suspects to a specific location and a computer used by church volunteers. Detectives then cross-checked the digital leads with old-fashioned police work, volunteer rosters, church meeting schedules, Boy Scout troop records, vehicle registrations, and purchase receipts, and the two streams of evidence converged. Modern analysis turned binary residue into human leads. The floppy's digital fingerprints pointed to a Park City resident who matched the profile built from decades of BTK crime scenes and letters. The revelation was a cold, clinical exposure of domestic normalcy. A church council president and scout leader who had hidden a monstrous appetite behind a civic mask. With the disc funneling investigators to a name and an address, the hunt became a staked-out, targeted operation that closed the gap between theory and arrest and set the stage for the confrontation on February 25, 2005. On February 25, 2005, Park City Police executed a search warrant at Dennis Rader's modest home and arrested him in a swift sweep that tore away his suburban mask. Investigators seized computers and church records that tied Rader to the BTK killer. BTK stands for bind, torture, kill. And during interrogation, he dropped the riddles and confessed. He admitted he was BTK and gave chilling clinical details about the 10 murders committed between 1974 and 1991. His calm, precise account of bindings, strangulations, and staged bodies turned a long-suspected profile into a grim, confirmed reality. On June 27, 2005, Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder, waiving a trial to spare the victims' families a prolonged ordeal. On August 18, 2005, he received 10 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The sentence could not stitch torn lives. Families reacted with a raw mix of relief, revulsion, and renewed grief, and neighbors felt betrayed by his bland normalcy. Wichita watched a private, monstrous pattern exposed under harsh fluorescent lights. That moment of exposure set off a long reckoning, and the city demanded overdue answers. The arrest of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, on February 25, 2005, and the floppy disk breakthrough forced big changes in how law enforcement handles cold cases. Local police and the FBI expanded digital forensics, imaging storage media, scrutinizing metadata, and creating dedicated cold case units to re-examine unsolved murders. Authorities also adopted stricter protocols for handling taunting correspondence, trying not to give those who taunt the attention they crave, while preserving any investigative value. Media outlets became more circumspect about publishing lurid details that can inflame copycats or feed a killer's ego. For victims' families, the conviction brought necessary accountability, but not full healing. Grief, anger, and long-lasting trauma persist, even as some relatives found resilience through testimony, advocacy, and memorials. Wichita still carries grotesque memories, but also strengthened procedures. A city reminded that monstrous depravity can hide behind suburban normalcy, and that legal closure is often uneasy and partial.